Welcome to DIY 360. I'm Kevin Bowe, and these are my friends, all recent graduates from IPR. Give it up. This is the after picture. That's the before picture. So we're also calling this Youa Fest, Aught 13, because Youa Vang on the other end there is the one who organized this. Why don't we start by just start you, and let's come this way and say your name and how long ago you graduated and what job or jobs it is that you're doing around here.
Okay. My name is Youa Vang, and I graduated in June of 2011, so a little over 2 years ago. And I write for City Pages in Minneapolis, and I also work for a few bands around town, Levy, and Koza in Rogue Valley. So,
my name is Michael Fisher. I graduated, I think, 2011. I'm currently working for myself. I have a media production company called Sway Heavy. I'm also working on an independent film out here from a company called Matthew 18. Editing that right now, as well as still doing some beat making, and audio engineering, mixing, mastering stuff, and photography as well.
My name's Noah Hollander. I run a recording studio in Northeast with my brother. It's called The Pearl. We mainly specialize in analog recording, but kind of just about everything. Yeah, but I guess more importantly, just to name drop, I do know this. I am a good friend of this guy, Dillon.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dillon Marcus. I graduated December 2011. I currently play in 3 different groups. One of them, Kevin's working on producing our album for Communist Daughter. And then I play in bass guitar in Junebug. And then I just recently started playing bass in another group called Edward the Confessor. So aside from that, I'll do just spots of work here and there for a few clients that I have at my home studio. So. And
in Communist Daughter, you're playing like you're everything but the kitchen, possibly the kitchen sink as well, right?
Sound.
Synth, guitar, percussion.
Yeah.
Some vocals?
No vocals.
No vocals?
Yeah, but
yet.
just sound.
Well, they got enough singers in that band anyway. They're knee deep in singers. So I think the most interesting question probably of the students on their minds, the students that are still here, is how did you get that job, and what can they do while they're here at IPR to basically get themselves ready? Because I mean, that's the dream, is doing what you're doing. You're at Pearl full time.
Oh, yeah.
More than full
time. To say
time.
the least.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, to me, my whole goal in music was I just don't want to work a day job. Yeah. I just don't want to work. If I can just make a living, you know what I mean, in music, I'd be happy, which of course, that's not true. Then you start to make a living and you're like, okay, now I want to I want to own a home with music money. But you, how did you, starting again with you, how did you get to be, local music journalist of renown?
well, actually, I used to co-produce DIY with Adam when he was here, and we had the web editor of City Pages come in, so I kind of he said that they were looking for an intern, and I spoke with her, applied for it, and they were really just kind of backed up. And when I was there, I felt it was really important to show what I can do, work as hard as I could.
This was for Andrea?
This was for Andrea when she was at City Pages. She's at the Current now, and Reed Fisher's a Current editor. And I just worked as hard as I could for free, and when I was done with my internship and I graduated, she was looking for freelancers. And I always feel like with City Pages, they're always looking for new people. So she took me on with that. I interned with a band too as their manager during the time when I was here.
And that was a learning experience.
It was, and I appreciate everything that I learned from that too. So I mean, I think a lot of it was IPR gave me a lot of tools to learn to do what I wanted to do, but I think the internship was the biggest part of it, because there you're actually just kind of in the trenches and learning. You get thrown in. So
Well, I know it was for you because I remember getting an email from Andrea where she said, I've now gotten myself in the position where I can't do my job without Youa. And so it reminds me of like in my session psychology class, I talk about the brilliance of crack dealers because they're the ones who figured out the first one's free. You know what I mean? And that's what internships are all
Yeah.
about. If you can convince an employer that their life is better with you in it
Yeah.
and much worse without you, then that's the day you're no longer an intern
Yeah.
and you're an employee. You know? So like, that's what you were able to do. And also, so you were working independently. You must have made some more connections through DIY. And just the idea of volunteering to do that. I mean, one thing when you were at IPR is everyone knew who you were. You were in everyone's grill. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can do that. You weren't invisible. And some of those other connections must have helped because how did you get to be a publicist I knew to call you when
Yeah.
my friend Freedy Johnston needed a publicist.
Well, a lot of it was fake it till you make it. I mean, when you called me up to do that stuff for Freedy, I didn't know exactly what to do, but I used part of City Pages, the stuff that I learned from there, to kind of send out press releases and all that. So I think it's just you say yes to everything, and then once you actually can get a foothold on what you want to do, you can start saying no to the projects that you don't want to do anymore. You can be picky. Because if you start saying yes to everything too, your name kind of gets diluted, and people kind of see through that too. So I think it's really important to be aware of that, and you're your own gauge on that, so.
How about you, Michael? How did you get the gigs? I mean, you're editing this independent film right now. How did you get that gig?
Pretty much just networking. Like, I know they preached that to you guys, at least they did when I was here. But like talking to everyone, and what I'm saying, never saying no is also good advice. But pretty much, I met my current manager, who was also a student here, George Shannon. I met him here, and he just kind of gave me the opportunity to shoot a music video for a local artist. He did a competition. I shot that video. The artist liked it, and then he actually put me in contact with Minnesota's Finest, who was the agency that's funding the movie. And so I actually shot a reality show for them a while back. They liked my stuff, so they called me back in to do the movie. So that's pretty much how I got that. But it all kind of just traced back to, talking to people and just, networking with everyone.
What's the film about?
It's actually a horror movie. It's about this girl who is from Washington, D.C., and she comes to Minnesota for school. And her parents' family own this house. It's like an old creepy house out in St. Paul. And she moves into the house and then starts hearing, creepy noises or whatever. And then she has to kind of figure out what's going on in the house. And it ends up tracing back to her ancestry and some things that happened. So it's pretty interesting.
That sounds great. So by networking, how do you network?
I mean, in terms of networking here, just if you are in class with someone or you are, watching, I don't know if you guys still do the beat battles or just student events or whatever. If you hear something you like, go talk to someone, just say, tell them you like it, reach out and just kind of say, yeah, I would like to work with you in some aspect and kind of see what you guys can do for each other. At least that's how I like to do it. Or just, like you were saying, going out to venues. If you go out to a show and you like the band, just go talk to the band. They're all just like people and stuff, So if you
It is surprising how approachable people are. Maybe because this is the Midwest. I don't know. I've never lived anywhere else. Yeah. I've hung out in a lot of other cities and stuff, but it is surprising how approachable people are, where you think, oh, well, I can't talk to them. They're, but people are happy, especially if you come up and you have some knowledge about what they do, about, something they did in their set, and you say, oh, I really like, this and this and this. They're like, oh, thanks, and there's your conversation starter.
Yeah, man.
How about you? How long did you have when did you hatch the idea? And were you first in on this, or was you and your brother the whole way of doing Pearl?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was really just good timing, I guess, because my brother worked down at Pachyderm in Cannon Falls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he worked there for 3 or 4 years, so kind of saw it right at the end of when Pachyderm was still a great place, and then kind of watched its demise. But so I guess it was kind of just perfect timing, because there was really just 2 house engineers there, and I think originally my brother wanted to start the studio with this guy Paul Marino, but he kind of just went and did his own thing. And I mean, we got the studio when I was still going to school here at IPR.
I remember.
It was in kind of my last few semesters when we really got serious about it. But I even found out about it from Scott Laguerre, who used to teach here. Told me, he's like, there's this vacant warehouse space. It's a built-out studio. He's like, it's really run down, but you should go check it out. And we did. So it was crazy. I mean, trying to like get done with IPR, going to school full time. And I remember a lot of days I would, because we spent about at least 3 or 4 months fixing up this place, which I was just saying was just disgusting. It was a health hazard. They left everything. The studio was sitting there for like 2 or 3 years. They left all their furniture, all their beer cans and cigarette butts, and it was gross.
So it was like the entry or something.
Yeah, totally. More like the hexagon. But yeah, so I mean, I remember there was times towards the end of me still going to school here where I would come here from almost 9 to 5, and then go to the studio from like 5 to 10 or 5 to midnight.
In a hazmat suit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was, I probably lost a few years off of my life.
If you
doing
can, if it's within the bounds of the decorum that I like to instill in DIY 360,
Yeah.
what's the grossest thing you found in there? Do we need to move on?
We found a rat, a dead rat in there. That's
That
for
works
sure.
for me.
But it was just the smell because
How do you decide then between you and your brother of who deals with the dead rat?
I made him do it for sure.
Nice.
You
But,
didn't have interns then?
Huh?
You didn't have interns?
We didn't have any interns then. No way.
So what's the division of labor between you and your brother? Is one of you more engineering and one is more producey, or is one more busy and one more musicy? Or
I would never have thought my brother and I would run a business together. We are exact opposites, but for some reason it's a balance that makes us work. I'm pretty much all the business stuff. I mean, he is a total creative musician, space cadet type. He would not know to come into work unless I told him to. Unless he knew that I could tell him all day long, we got this big session tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. We're starting at this time. They're doing this. And then he'll call me at midnight. What's going on tomorrow, bro? But
so you're the Felix to his Oscar.
Totally.
Really?
Totally.
Cool.
But I don't know what he does. I mean, because I have a business degree from here. And so I do all the scheduling and trying to go out and find bands. And he just records music. And he doesn't really even go out that much. So I try and find all the bands. But it's like, if my brother is just so out of touch because he's just so obsessed with music that if he's not at the studio tracking, he's just at home listening to a Nat King Cole record or something.
That's cool. So he's Mr. Inside and you're Mr. Outside.
Yeah.
But now your job must be getting easier because the studio has gotten a pretty good reputation, and you've kind of developed a niche as far as your analogness that
Totally.
most other studios. Is there another studio in town here that's as analog-y as you guys?
Not really. I mean,
That's active?
Not really. I
Doesn't
mean,
seem like it.
especially doing like hi-fi analog records
Yeah.
as opposed to like a lo-fi like 80s Guided by Voices
Yeah,
record
right.
or something like
Yeah.
that. So not really. It's like, we accidentally found our weird little niche.
Which
And-
just happened to be what you wanted to do
Yeah, because
anyway.
it's kind of because we're just selfish and we really like, 60s garage rock records and Motown records, and that's just what we wanted to do, and I guess we just kind of made it work.
That's great.
Especially in such a modern digital time where they go, oh, you don't want to deal with analog gear, it's a headache. But I don't know.
I guess it's a headache that people want right now, and you guys are the best ones in town doing it. So that's because I hear it. Like I was telling you
Yeah.
before this thing started. People I've worked with in Master Mix or friends of mine in town and stuff like that are buzzing about the studio. So that's the kind of stuff. It's funny because people are so obsessed with promoting whatever it is they do through social media that I think sometimes people forget that if promoting is fine, but supposing just for a second that you put all your time into promotion instead of into getting good at doing the thing that you're promoting. If you're a band, I don't know, writing, singing, and playing, then if you promote too much, what you're doing is you're basically making sure that everyone knows you suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people forget in this era of promotion that the widget has to work and be better and or cheaper than everybody else's widget. Otherwise, everyone can know about it and go, yeah, everyone knows about this inferior thing. So I don't see a whole lot of hype going on. You guys don't seem like you do a lot of advertising or anything like that.
We don't do any advertising. It's all just word of mouth.
That's
And
what money can't buy.
Basically just me running my mouth all around town and saying, hey, you should come check out
But
our
now other
studio."
people are doing it for you.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
which is really great.
That's great. So, Dillon, your story, I know a part of it. It's one of my favorite things that's ever happened to me.
Sure.
If I could make it all about me for a second, or for the rest of the, well, we have 43 minutes. I know that you were in my class in Master Mix when Communist Daughter came in to record,
Yeah.
and you went about the process of making yourself, to them get to the point where, boy, our lives are better when Dillon's in it, you know?
And I think that, I mean, you learn about it from your teachers, as far as having patience, and especially in the studio, because artists' minds are flying, and if you start interjecting your thoughts into a session, it can really get just hairy and disorganized. And so
Timing.
so it is
Timing.
key. It's like kind of like changing lanes in like rush hour traffic, where you're patient, but there's only certain times when you can actually say something of poignance, and those times are few and far between.
Plus,
So
there's like
keeping-
6 people in that band,
yeah,
right?
Yep. And so keeping that in mind, and it's also, I mean, I got even more experience when I was assistant engineering at the Pearl, and I mean the sessions that we worked on are, for me personally, like really memorable. Just hearing and waiting to hear other people's ideas. Because I mean, if you can take yourself out of the equation, the session will still go on, and so just being there to aid when something comes up. I
It
think
sounds
is-
like you're talking about humility, which I know is a
Sure.
dirty word in some
Sure.
circles because people confuse it with the word humiliation. But humility has nothing to do with humiliation. It has to do with, like, to me, to be a true artist, or to be in any of the capacity that you guys are, you have to put yourself here and whatever the art is up here. So, like, if you're on a session, it's not about how many ideas can I get into this session so I can prove to everyone how awesome I am. It's about, no, looking at the song, forget about me for a second. What does this song need? Well, maybe this song needs me to shut up for the next 2 hours.
Certainly.
And let them work it out. But the way you handled it in class, though, did you, like, didn't you kind of go up to Johnny and them in the class and say, hey, do you ever need someone to run live sound? Or
Yep. And I think what had happened is Adam was late that day. We were waiting.
You're kidding.
So you go figure.
Bass player.
So the bass player Adam was late for the first initial session that they had in Kevin's class, and we were waiting. And I approached Kevin. I'm like, if they need a player to fill in, I can learn songs quickly. And you
happen to actually not be lying.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
also
And
helps.
Dillon's a really great bass player.
He's a really great bass player.
So I mean, it was luck that there was something that arose to kind of springboard off of, but approaching it, I don't remember the exact instance and what happened, but I just let them know that I was available, and then so Johnny, the band leader, just started asking more questions to me specifically as far as like what my capabilities are, what I do,
And later he emailed me asking about you. And I was
Sure.
like, yes, he is as awesome as you think he is. And then
Well-
it just kind of took off took off from there. But,
Yeah.
it is a lucky break, but I have a philosophy about this, like I do about most things. And my philosophy about this, everyone says, oh, it's so hard to get your lucky break. I disagree with that. Everybody in the music business, if you hang around long enough, you get a lucky break. My feeling is that most people aren't paying attention when they get their lucky break, and it goes right by them because they're busy paying attention to the wrong things. You know what I mean? If you're around, look at you, Michael, you're talking about going out to venues and networking and and Youa volunteering to help, do DIY. Those are the things that make why lucky breaks happen, you know what I mean? Or being crazy enough to be willing to clean dead rats out of a space to have the right studio.
Seemed like the dumbest idea in the world while we were doing it.
Exactly. And
We
now
didn't care.
look, you know what I mean? Well, the whole idea of doing what we do for a living is on paper a dumb idea. But if you're crazy enough to do it, you will get a lucky break. Just you have to make sure that you're paying attention instead of being like this, the day that it comes. Otherwise you miss it, But everyone gets chances whether they are paying attention or not. Some people are too myopic. They define success in the music industry as too narrowly. You know what I mean? Like I used to think when I was a kid, the only success in the music business was I liked the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, so be in a band that gets signed. That's it. I wasn't aware of any other jobs. It's like, what's the guy in the studio? Whatever. That looks stupid. Those guys are smart. I'm dumb. I just need to be in a band, And it's like then you go up and you realize that engineers and producers, there's a lot of really great ones out there that are dumb. There's room for all of us. What do you think? Let's start at this end and go back now. What do you think the classes or experiences you had at IPR? Obviously, besides my class, where you got that sweet-ass gig, that most like prepped you. And I don't want to turn this into a IPR fest, because this has already been named Youa Fest. We are here to celebrate and worship the deity that we know as Youa, okay? But what classes do you remember back in, where, boy, I use a lot of that?
Well, certainly, I think classes that I took were specific. The classes that I took were specific to my interests, and so it's kind of the chicken or the egg thing. But I learned a lot in JP's sound design class, and am currently using the information that I learned there. But
Are you running Ableton Live during?
No, my rig is all analog. Well,
Okay.
I have a digital synth, but it's all, there's no laptop.
Hardware.
Yeah, so, the sound design class was just something that I could really kind of delve into. And any of the engineering classes were great, like Jay's live sound class was awesome.
Because you've done that, right? You've run
Yeah.
live sound.
Yep.
quite a
And
bit.
it was kind of an all-encompassing experience. I think you can't really stress the hang factor. Just learning to approach your instructors in a way that isn't annoying. And I'm not saying that I wasn't ever annoying, but
You were hardly ever annoying, Dillon.
But just being able to make those relationships, because then you see those your relationships that you made out, when out away from school, and it's a great experience, and you get to kind of run with it.
After you get out of here, all those
Yeah.
teachers are not teachers anymore. They're just dudes.
and
they're just
they're
people.
rooting for you, and it just
Yeah.
goes back to networking.
Or working with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you? What classes? Your capacity at the studio is more business. Did you have some classes in business here that prepped you for what you're doing now?
Oh, definitely. And also, speaking of being dumb, don't ask me what my grade point average was when I was here. But but I think, yeah.
I was sad that I never had you in a class. We kind of knew each other a little bit,
Yeah,
but I was
yeah.
like, "How come I don't get this kid? Were you music business?"
all business. I always wanted to take your session psychology class, but I don't know if that's allowed.
Well, it should be,
But
especially for what you do.
yeah, oh, I know. It's the biggest thing.
I'm sure all the artists you work with are in perfect mental health and like not a problem at all, but some of them that I've worked with are a little thorny.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine what it would be like working with normal business-minded people every day. But sometimes I feel like I'm more of a babysitter running a daycare for adult musicians. But
Totally.
but I think things that I learned at IPR a lot is I definitely learned what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. Like being somewhat business-minded. Some classes that maybe are really maybe easier for guys like you were really tough for me. Like I would say the two hardest classes I took were Pro Tools 101 and this is embarrassing to say, but Photoshop. And it's like I remember being in the Photoshop class. Like the first day, you had to make like a self-portrait of yourself, and I was just like frustrating, just trying to make this thing, and it just looked like a South Park character. And then there's just like the stone kid next to me making like a Van Gogh, and I'm just like, this is
I hate that kid.
This is not gonna work out well. But then I took like as dorky as it sounds, I took like that accounting class from Roger Hughes, and I think I got an A in it. So I think it really helped me figure out what I'm good at and what I'm definitely not good at. And even
You're
though
playing to the stereotypes.
yeah, and I mean
Our people are accountants, right?
we're good
get
at
that
it.
all
I
the
don't know if
time.
it's in the genes.
We
or
are
what,
good
man,
at it.
but it somehow clicked with me.
It's why we still control the entertainment industry as a whole.
Somehow,
I'm sorry.
Somehow it works. Somehow. But yeah, even though I kind of got a lot of B's and C's, I also was always talking to the teachers afterwards and asking their advice in the classes as I was failing them. And even speaking of Photoshop, which I dreaded so much, and on a teaching level, Nick Bochek was my teacher, and I feel like we didn't really get along in class, but then he ended up making a music video for me for one of my artists and did a killer job, and I think of him as a good friend now, and I didn't like him as a teacher at all. But so yeah, I
My
guess
wife
stuff like
always
that.
says it's nice to be nice to the nice, which I think is what we're getting up here is that, you find your people, and
Yeah.
you create your, I'm going to date myself and call it a Rolodex, but your list of contacts that you can always go to. And I treasure that in my life. That's one thing I like about being the age that I am is like, if I need my amp fixed, I don't have a guy. I've got the guy. I've known him for many years. We're good friends. He's the best. And it's great when you start, and I mean, you're starting to be that now for people. When you get clients at Pearl, you want to be that person. Like if you have a plumber come over and fix your pipes, he comes over, does a great job, charges you a fair price and leaves. The next time your pipes bust, you don't go, oh, who should I call? You look at your refrigerator and
Eddie
there's that
Chiletti.
magnet. And, Eddie Chiletti. It's like after he's worked on your stuff.
I don't think our studio could run without Eddie Chiletti.
No.
Not that we call him that much, but if there's an emergency situation, he'll know how to fix it.
Because he's
He'll figure it
the
out.
guy. He's
Yeah.
not a guy. He's the guy.
Yeah,
And I think that
exactly.
your studio is getting to be that for other people. They're not going to, if they have a great recording experience, they're going to, that last record was the best recording experience I've ever had. Now we're going to make another record. Where do you think we should go? You know what I mean? Same thing if you go to a restaurant and it's your first time ever at this restaurant. You go there and it sucks or the wait person sucks. You don't go back there a month later and say, you know what? Maybe they've pulled it together. Nobody does that. Every time you think of that restaurant in your mind, you go, oh yeah, that's the place that sucks. And so it's nice to be nice to the nice and get that reputation. How about you, Michael? What classes did you have here that you either liked the most or you feel like they really helped you most in doing what you're doing now?
Well, they didn't really have too many like video type courses when I was here, but in terms of audio, Steve Price was dropping gems in that Logic Pro class. I learned a lot in that Logic Pro. I got level 2 certified in there. And also Steve Hodges' mixing and mastering. That was epic. I learned a lot of good stuff in there. And not really a class, but working at the lab office was cool because I got to just talk to
I forgot you worked in the lab. Yeah.
Worked in the lab office. I worked overnight, so like all the real hardcore grind out kids were like always coming in, and I got to talk to them and see what they were doing. And I actually ended up getting a pretty cool gig actually talking to Ashley Battle late night one time. She had an artist she was working with, Meek DeMio, who ended up coming to me for some like mixing and mastering stuff. So like through working with him, he had got some collaborations with like, I don't know if you guys know Kendrick Lamar or Absol. I actually ended up mixing some records for them through doing that with me in
Nice.
the lab office. So get that internship at the lab office. You never know.
Nice to be nice to the nice.
Yeah.
What's Ashley doing now? I remember that kid. I did an internship for her once. What's she doing now?
She's actually in Chicago right now. Her sister got a Comedy Central stand-up show, and so she's gonna be helping her sister out with that. And
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah,
So-
she was really hardworking,
Yeah.
very serious. I had to work
Very
hard
much
to get her to laugh and loosen her up, but she's very like work ethic-y, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, but other classes, the post-production class was really dope. Jerry, I don't know if he's still here, but Jerry Horath, I think his name was. But I learned a lot from him in there. And then also Nick Bocek's Photoshop class, I took that and learned a lot in there as well.
So you liked Nick.
Yeah, I thought
I
Nick was
love
pretty
Nick
cool.
now.
Nick's the man.
How about you? What classes did you take here that, obviously that internship worked out
Yeah.
really well for you, but how about classes?
Well, I kind of have a confession. I didn't take any music journalism classes, and when I chose to come to IPR, my goal was to be an artist manager. That's what I want to do.
Until you became an artist manager
Yeah, no.
and realized
I-
you'd rather be a proctologist.
I know. It's more like babysitting sometimes, but that's what I still want to do. I took artist management, and I felt that was the class that best represented what I wanted to do while I was here. I learned a lot. We got to pick our own artists that we worked with also. And I mean, it pushed me in the direction where I wanted to go, but I also felt like the other classes I took, like Noah said, business side, you had to take the first level audio production. And that class with Lucas and Walt, that was like the toughest class for me. But I worked as hard as I could just because it pushed me outside of what I didn't know. And I think that's good to do that sometimes too, even in a creative aspect.
So you're glad you were glad you were forced to take
I'm
those
glad I
classes?
was forced to take it, because then if one of my artists is talking about talking about sessions in Pro Tools or something, I can understand it a little bit better than
Yeah.
I would have.
I think
otherwise.
today, the way the music business is
Yeah.
now, I rarely meet, and I
Yeah.
used to always meet people like this that only wear one hat.
Yeah.
Myself included. 10 minimum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like you have to know at least a little about a lot of different things is way better bet these days than knowing a lot about one
Exactly.
thing. Eventually you get to the point where you know hopefully a lot about a lot of different things. But I mean, it's just there's no such thing as a engineer anymore or a producer or a songwriter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to do all these different things.
My motto is master of all trades, jack of none.
Yes, that's a good one. I liked what you said before too. Fake it till you make it, because especially if there's money on the table, you don't even let them finish their sentence. We're looking for someone who can. I got that. I do it all the time. I mean, that's how I weaseled my way into mixing that Meat Puppets record.
Yeah.
And then I immediately called Colt, and I was like, Colt, we need to split this gig because I'm in way over my head. And worked great. I got half the money, and I got to work with Colt and learn how to mix records from a master. It was great. And I totally lied to get that gig. But their manager deserved it, because if he was dumb enough to manage a band that big and not know the difference between a producer and an engineer or a
Yeah.
mixer or whatever, then it's like, fine, I'll take your money. But that was a great learning experience and now I'm mixing all the time, and it's okay to lie, I think, in that instance. And I tell my students this, it's okay to lie, because you'll be able to find someone probably under this roof who does know how to do the gig, and you can split it with them. But hopefully you only have to lie once, and then you actually during the process learn how to do the thing, because that's how I got to be a producer. Moving from songwriting to producing is I just put it out there. Yep, I'm a record producer. Do you need your record produced? Because that's what I do. I produce records. I take the record and I produce stuff. And then I found some kid who was dumb enough to believe it, and then the record came out, and it said produced by Kevin Bowe. I'm not a liar anymore. Let's go down, starting with you. This is a great question. This is a very incisive, revealing question. Favorite thing about the job or jobs you're doing now, and the thing you hate the most? And you have to be honest. No being nice here. I want to know both.
I think what I love most about working at City Pages is I love talking to people. And I love getting the story out of them because I do a lot of interviews with
You
musicians.
just did an interview with
I
Mason
did.
Jennings before we started this thing.
Right before. It came in late last night, so it was really last minute. But I love talking to people, and I love just hearing what they have to say about that. The worst part, and I think anybody creative can understand this, is I don't like writing myself. It's hard for me to put something down
Really?
that's going to be it's going to be
I'm
permanent. and
totally
people see it.
surprised to hear you say that.
Well, it's like being a musician. You live inside your head too much sometimes. You think about it too much. And I think that's just the hardest part for me. I love talking to people, but it's hard for me to write.
Because your writing is really smooth when
Well,
I read it.
thanks, But it's difficult, and you don't have to know that, but now you do. But that's the hardest part with any writing that I do. With the musicians that I love working with is I worked in retail and I worked in management for almost 10 years before I came back to school, and I loved working with people. I love bringing out the best in them and making sure that they do their best job. So, and I knew I loved music, so I wanted to put those two together as artist manager.
Right.
So that's what I love best out of that. I think the hardest part is I came to realize this recently too, is working with your friends, because I was always told in school that you're not supposed to be friends with your clients, but it's so hard because you see these people all the time and you get to know them on a personal level. I think that's the hardest part for me, is to be friends with somebody and to work with them too and kind of delineate those two, the differeces. And that's something that I'm learning. And I think it's good to always have difficulties in your job, because if everything always goes well, you're not really pushing yourself to be a better person.
True.
Altogether,
Good
so.
point. So maybe it's a good thing that we have the creative writing, the writing across the curriculum requirements here at IPR.
Yeah.
That Laura Benda has helped spearhead, because it's good to be able to write. It's funny, I didn't realize how opposite we are, because to me, people drive me nuts. I could sit alone in a room and write all day. But when, it's like, that's what I like about working with Communist Daughter. It's the statistically the strangest band I've ever worked with, because number one, there's 6 people in the band. There's not one butthead amongst them. Do you know the odds on that? You know why I play in a 3-piece band? Because we could never find that 4th guy who's not an idiot. And here they have 6 people in that band. Seriously. I mean, each one more charming than the next. And how do I put this? I have no motivation for lying about these guys. It's not a project I'm making any money on. I work with them out of love. Not only is there no jerks in the band, but there's no musical weak link. They're all really great. And with a 6-piece band, that never happens. There's always one, the drummer's kind of something like that. But these guys are all great. But that's the exception that proves the rule, because every other group I work with, I'm a professional, so you'll never know which one. Even the one will never know. But but at the end of the day, I'm smiling and everything, but in my head, I'm like, get me out of here. Okay, see ya. So that's interesting.
So which one of us, Kevin, are you saying?
Oh, it's you.
Okay, thanks.
No, none of these guys. Why do you think I took final approval on the list? How about you, Michael? What's your most favorite and least favorite about the kind of work that you're...
Well, I would say most favorite is being my own boss, man. Just being able to just roll out of bed at 2 o'clock if I want, and you know what I'm saying? Do what I got to do as long as I get my stuff done. But it's also like my least favorite part of the job, because since I don't answer to anyone else, like if I'm not eating, it's on me. I can't blame anybody
Good
else.
answer.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. But I mean...
Someone told me an entrepreneur is someone who would rather work 80 hours a week for themselves than 40 hours a week for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's probably your deal, too.
That sounds about right, man.
Yeah, so that is the best and worst. How about you, Noah? Favorite thing, least favorite thing? We've already covered rats, so I don't think you can use that again.
Well, I mean, I know this is a bit of a generic answer, but I love music more than anything in the world. Don't ask me to change your oil. Don't ask me to do anything outside of music, because I don't know how to do anything else at all.
I was totally going to ask you to change my own after this section.
I'll try.
So that's a firm no. Then.
That's a
It's
firm
not-
no.
okay.
They didn't offer that class here at IPR, so I wasn't required to take it. But yeah, I mean, I just love music and music history, and it's so awesome. So I'd say my favorite part is just being a part of that and helping musicians get to the next level, whether it just be them coming into the studio or helping them with, development. Or it's so cool because when it comes down to it, even though so many people in the city are, my clients, and I talk to them on such like a business professional level all the time, what they don't know is that I'm a total geeky, nerdy super fan underneath it all. So it's like when guys who I kind of look up to, and maybe they don't know that, come in and they want to ask me my advice on something or ask me to read a contract or something for them, or it's awesome. It's a dream. And back to teachers or whatever here that I really liked. I spent most of my time hanging out with Tina in the library, just talking shit about music and what we like and what we don't like. And
I did remember that about you when you were here. We were having some conversation at one point where you made a musical history reference.
yeah.
And I was like, you know who they are?
Yeah.
I don't know what we were talking about, traffic or something,
Yeah.
something, or maybe it was more garagey 60s thing. And I was just
Probably.
like, and I never forgot you after that. 'Cause I
Yeah?
was like, it's that kid.
Yeah.
That kid who knows about some music that happened before
Yeah.
2005.
I mean, the lounge at the studio where my little office is looks more like a record store or like Tina's library than it does a professional business office, because I'm a total record collecting addict. So I guess that's what I love about it.
Now the worst.
What don't? Oh. I guess because I'm on the business end and my brother is so far on the opposite side of it, I mean,
On the mic.
it's still, it's still a job, and, it's still real life. So, I have to talk to people about all the serious, non-fun, non-creative stuff too, like
Money.
But, budgeting, how we're going to make this record work, paying out your invoice, how that's going to work. Or if we're doing one of our own projects, like for my brother or one of our artists or some sort of in-house thing, and a guy comes over and slaves for 3 hours doing a sax part that they're really excited about, I have to tell them, I don't think we're going to use that on the track, dude. But it sounded really cool, but it's just not right. So it's always like really difficult, or, trying to, reschedule stuff, and
That's
I
the
don't know.
worst for me is the scheduling.
Yeah. I do
That's
all
the worst part
scheduling.
about doing 10 jobs for a living.
Yeah.
The scheduling. I hate it.
If I make a mistake with scheduling, it's just my whole world is over. I'm just like, it stresses me out so much.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and when
Hate
there's
it.
scheduling,
And I do make those mistakes.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually, especially if you're booked out a lot, and scheduling conflicts and invoices.
It's
and
just so
money
time consuming,
and-
the scheduling part. I'm going to
Yeah.
call Bob, can you do it at 2 o'clock? Yeah, Bob can, but Ralph can't. And
Yeah.
then it's just like back and forth with the emails and stuff like that. It makes you want to be king of the world, so you could just say, be rich and powerful enough where you could say, rehearsals at 2.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not there is fired.
Yeah.
No more emails, but I don't see that happening soon for me. How about you? Your favorite thing and least favorite thing about all the kinds of work you're doing now?
Well, since we're on, mine was going to be scheduling. So outside of like my whatever entrepreneurship endeavors, I work or have been for the past 2 months working 40 hours for a company called Fraser, working with children who've been diagnosed along the autism spectrum. So there's 40 hours there, and then I also work like 20 hours a week at First Avenue. So that's already taking up a
Seriously?
large chunk.
So that's 60.
60, and then 3 bands rehearsals. And so I just cut back on my, I'm no longer full-time status as of today at Fraser because...
What do you do at First Avenue?
It's kind of just an auxiliary job that most people that work there do. It's considered a floor position. So at events, taking tickets or wristbanding,
Are you a bouncer?
Security.
You're a bouncer,
Yeah,
aren't you?
bouncer. Last night was Skrillex, and
Any heavy incidents?
lots of. Well, yeah, there were some heavy incidences.
Did you have to bust some heads? Or?
I had to kick 2 people out and
You're serious?
Cut 5 people off so they get C's on their hands. And
You are so cool to me right now.
well, and that was the first night I've had to deal with any of that stuff. So, but it is.
Is it the
scheduled.
suburban EDM crowd?
It was, yeah, it was a lot of college freshmen, I think, because they didn't know how to handle their booze.
Frat
And-
EDMers.
Yeah, and
Nice.
so I mean, it's for me, it's mostly scheduling, and I'm just dealing with that right now. And
that bass, bro. Is that what it was?
it was a
Sorry.
lot of like weird self-moshing. Is the way I can, yeah, like really aggro movements to no one, and it was interesting. I had my iPhone, but it was too dark to actually get some good video.
We should have shown that.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, I remember the first time I dropped ecstasy. I had to like just that.
and
much
that's
of
what
an
it was.
idiot.
It was the combination of alcohol and that drug, and people just get completely. Their egos just explode, and they just think everything is fair game. So
I'm
it's
glad your generation has its version of cocaine, because
Yeah.
cocaine really made people act
Sure.
like jerks too back
Yep.
in my day. If you had the least little bit of jerk in you, that will like make it blue.
yeah, and it did. But
So the scheduling for
the
you
scheduling,
too.
yeah, because like Noah said, if there's one area that I neglect accidentally, I'm just like pulling my hair out, having to like renege on prior
Yeah.
commitments, and it's just
And
like,
you feel
oh
bad.
man, yeah,
you do. You
It's-
feel bad.
So, but on the opposite spectrum, it kind of falls into, I guess it'd be like creative logistics. Just approaching us any type of project, like
It does
getting-
take creativity to be able to pack it into.
sure, and I guess even more specifically, like what I really enjoy is assembling the tools that I'm going to use for a project, and whether it's like a pretty ambitious signal path for what I have going on with Communist Daughter, or something like just vintage bass into an old solid state amp. And so, you know, it can go one or two ways, and then, or many ways, I guess, but then also I also enjoy the quick time that happens before you set up, like for an event or for a show, and the adrenaline, getting all that stuff together and making sure that everything's
I like
working.
the flow of the night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
it's because it's this bell curve.
It is.
peaking
It's
with the
everything's
set.
everything. Well, yeah. So
Especially on
there's
tour.
this spike that happens at the beginning because you're, you know, unless you have everything, you know, like quite a huge production where people are setting up stuff for you, which I don't have. You have this thing that you've spent time honing, and you have hopefully done it so you can set it up as quickly as possible. And so, you know,
Plus, you have a lot of
streamlining-
crap up there.
Yeah.
More than anybody else.
Yeah, so streamlining that and making sure you can do it quickly is, I guess, what I enjoy the most.
Well, I have one more profound question for you guys. Youa first, and then hopefully we can get some equally or possibly more profound questions from you guys. But real quick, Youa, where would you like to see yourself? The things that you're doing now, where would you like to progress to and see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Forget about reality,
Sure.
just, you know, dream job. What would you be doing?
My dream job would be tour managing. I'd love to also manage artists.
God, we are so opposite.
I know.
I would literally rather poke myself repeatedly in the eye with a dull, rusty knife
I feel like
than
I'm
tour
a,
manage.
I feel like I'm a late bloomer, and I mean, at the moment, you know, I'm not married. I don't have kids, so I want to be on the road. I want to see kind of the world, and I
Tour
wanna
managing is
be-
like having kids, only they're big and ugly and ill-behaved and drunk.
Yeah.
and they don't do anything you say.
You know,
So it's like having
you
kids.
asked me what I wanted to do, and you're like, here's what I want
I'm
to do.
trying to talk you out of it, literally, because I like and care about you. But if
right.
that's your dream,
That's
you
my
go
dream.
off and do that. We'll talk to you soon
All
after.
right.
Michael.
I would say I kind of want to be like, I mean, I definitely want to be doing my own film stuff. Like, I don't want to have to be, you know,
Directing?
working- yeah, or maybe not directing, but doing, you know, cinematography or
Okay.
DP. I would love to do that. I would love to be like a music documentarian, man, and kind of just like travel the world and like follow musicians that I like and just film them and like, you know, do stuff like that, or just do documentaries in general. I like to create documentaries and whatnot.
I can't wait to see that Muscle Shoals documentary that's out right now.
I saw it. It's really awesome. I watched it twice.
I can't wait.
Oh man, it's great.
Word. Yeah, man. But then also continue to make music too. Maybe not get paid for it, but just like to do it for free and stuff like that, man.
Or
Just kinda, like, put
yes,
things
get
out.
paid for it.
I don't know, man. I feel like when I get money for music, it kind of just ruins the creativity for me. Like, unless I can get paid to do it like the way I want to do it.
We
then
could
maybe.
like work together, and you could do the music, and if the money makes you feel bad, then I'll take it for you.
All right.
Because I like you and I want to help. Just we could talk about that after
we'll
this,
talk
though.
about that later.
How about Noah? Where do you see your future 3 to 5 years? Is it tied in with the studio? Or?
Totally. I would think ideally, I would just like to get to the point with the studio where we were only working on projects that we really wanted to and in-house projects. And because, sure, you know, we still have to pay the bills at the end of the day. So, you know, we do tons of, you know, high school bands and crappy metal bands. And it's always interesting, but I would like to be able to just handpick all the projects that me and my brother work on. And I also have a really small label, so I'd really like to expand that and really have that be, you know, a big part of my career. more
That
than
seems
it is
natural,
too.
though. You know,
Yeah.
you start out and you're like, oh, if we could just get the studio open, then you get it open. Now, if we could just get it booked, and then once you get it
Yeah.
booked, I think it's natural to want to raise the
Yeah.
bar and raise the rates. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that'd be nice too.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, the old cliche, but it's true. If you're too busy,
Yeah. So
raise
yeah,
your
I mean,
rates.
work less and get paid more. I guess that's the goal.
Oh, yeah, we never work less, though, because we're,
No.
you know,
No.
I don't think there's anyone, I bet you, on the stage right now that has a super active, healthy social life outside of music. I know I don't.
I
You know
make
what I mean?
music my social life. I mean,
Yeah, me too. That's what we do.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
common. But yeah, it's if you're really good at what you do, you know what I mean, and you can get it, then I think it's totally standard to raise your rates. How about you? 3 to 5 years.
I mean, I really enjoy what I am doing right now. If I
What an
could,
awesomely zen answer
well,
it was.
sure. You know, if, for instance, my touring and availability to tour or something were to not come through, I really enjoy working with kids, and so I haven't ruled out the possibility of more school with the focus of music therapy.
But you like touring. That would be a dream.
Certainly, yeah.
And you did how long was the Communist Daughter
it
tour
was,
with
it was like a
Jason
it was a
Isbell?
month broken up between with like 4 days in between when we were home, so it was like 2 weeks.
And you had a ball.
Perhaps-
You loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, certainly, it was nice to have a pretty set circuit. So the first half of the tour was pretty much independently booked by John, the band leader. And that was pretty much, we went south into Nebraska and over to Colorado and up. So there was like a fair amount of space between some of the gigs, but it was solidly booked. We were played 14 days in a row. And then
That's
Yeah.
solid. Yeah. That's unheard ofly solid.
so that was great, and you know, amazingly, there was no like squabbles or anything. It was awesome.
All nice people. Plus, when you guys got back from that tour, that was, I mean, it was always a good band, but when you guys got back from that tour and we went in the studio, it was like, holy crap. It's like Davina, you know what I mean? Where it's just like,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah.
much less talk, more rock. And, you know, you don't have to talk about arrangements. Everyone just knows what to do, that kind of thing. It was really magic. How about some, speaking of magic, how about some magically incisive questions from students or anyone out here listening? Let's have a great question. There's one.
Like when you got out of IPR, did you know what you were doing, or did you kind of just like, figure it out?
When you got out of IPR, did you know what you were doing, or did you just kind of figure it out as you go? You want to take that and work my way?
Sure. Kind of to play off that, I was talking to one of my friends about a month ago, and we were just, he's getting into his later, he's almost 30, and he was saying, I have no clue what I want to do. And I said to him, I have no clue what I want to do still. I think my mom said to me when I graduated, she's like, now you can make a lot of money, right? I'm like, no. It's not that at all. It's just, you kind of just have to start somewhere. And I think that's the most important part, just to try anything.
Say yes to something
Yeah.
and give it a shot.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part of anything, just the initial first step, so.
Because if it turns out to be great, you found your thing. And if
Yeah.
it turns out to be crappy, then it's like, great, I can write that one off the list. I know that's not for me.
Yeah.
How about you, Michael?
I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when right after I graduated, but it's just constantly figuring it out, and I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. But yeah, it's pretty much just not, being open-minded, I guess. I mean, like, I shot a wedding 2 weeks ago, and that was actually pretty dope, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I could possibly get into doing wedding stuff or, mixing records again. It's just kind of like, figuring it out as I go along. So I would say that's like my biggest like advice is just kind of just don't rule anything out unless it's just like completely against your moral or something, kind of just like.
Even then, I just don't like to deal in absolutes. You know what I mean? You never know. Yeah. Life is a gray area. As you get older, you realize that. There's dark gray and light gray. But Noah?
Well, I mean, I knew what I was doing just in the sense that we had the studio already, and I go, oh, this is great. I don't have to worry about going to school now. I can be here full time. But at the same time, there is not a studio manager business class here. So, it's like, sure, I knew, okay, the bands need to have coffee and water, and I need to do the scheduling, but it was a big learning process of taking the basic tools that I learned here and really learning how to incorporate them in a real job and actually doing it in real life. So it was a big learning process, and I was kind of familiar with the music scene, but I also, it was really weird going up to talking to musicians at shows that I didn't know and being like, hi, I run a recording studio. You should come over. It's really cool. And check it out. My brother will be there too. You can come hang out with us. So it was really hard, just learning how to just not care and just say, yeah, just come over and just learn how to be able to talk to musicians in a loud bar after they just played and try and, not sound like a dork. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still sound like a dork, but I'm a little better at it.
Apparently so.
For myself, I think it was just really important to let my interests just kind of secondarily help me navigate what it is that I would do, and certainly the always say yes thing comes into play. But while I was still going to school, applied for the lab office internship, and was working there and was working as an assistant engineer at the Pearl, and meeting people like, for instance, the band that I just recently started playing with was like the second session that I was a part of at the Pearl. And so it's, for me, it's just, I mean, it's an active approach because there's the pursuing of things like I needed to make money, so I had to apply for the internship at IPR, which is getting your getting all your resume together and all that. But I think it's just really having just letting, I don't want to say letting things happen because that sounds so lax, but
there is
it's-
a time to make things happen and a time to let things happen.
Sure.
Hard to know the difference sometimes.
But
I
it
think.
is, it's knowing you, like where you want to gravitate towards, and then really going for it.
Well,
Which
I was just going to say, I think we've probably had 15 or 20 assistants and interns at the studio, and Dillon's probably one of the best we've ever had. But it's because Dillon can do anything. He can
say
fix
that
the
to
action
And will.
on the guitar, or he knows good mic setups, and he knows good music, and knows.
And partly because he's interested in so many
Yeah.
different things. The broader your output, your
Yeah.
outlook rather, then the higher your output, because it's like there's people who go, oh yeah, well I don't know how to solder. And then that's the
Yeah.
end of the conversation. It's like, well, learn. Go
Exactly.
buy a solder
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to get involved with things that scare you, and that can be like with your own productions. Like maybe you're not working with a client, but for me, before I was going to IPR, I was I didn't have a computer, so I didn't have a DAW, but I was producing my own music, and they were more or less, I guess, just experiments with sound with
Sure.
an MPC and a cassette player or a cassette recorder. But it kind of gave me something to, once you get an interest, if you follow it, your interests in maybe that specific vein they'll explode, and you'll have
And it beats
so
the hell
many
out of
more.
sitting around playing video games.
Exactly.
I mean-
So it gives you a reference whenever you're in any other situation. So you can.
Hey, you know what Wayne Gretzky said? No, I'm not.
No, it's awesome.
Everyone thinks I'm dinking around when I'm being serious, and vice
Sure.
versa.
Yeah.
No, I love this quote. He said, "You don't make 100% of the shots you don't take." Huh?
Yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah. Make some mistakes.
I don't know, but that feels like a closer. I want to thank you guys for coming. Don't you think this was an awesome thing to do with people who went to IPR? I think we should do this every quarter now, have one of the DIYs be a group of people. I mean, not these clowns again, but we'll get some others. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it.